So Leslie has just given you a brief introduction to the life and story of Norbert Čapek and how he introduced the service of the flower communion. I want to expand on that just a little. So Čapek was born in 1870 in Czechoslovakia. He was born a Catholic to very modest and humble background. But he became disillusioned with Catholicism and became a Baptist minister in Czechoslovakia. And then he came to New York to study for a doctorate. And while he was in New York, he encountered Unitarianism. And being a smart chap, he thought, this is the faith for me. And so he became a Unitarian. Also, while in New York, he met Czech-born Maya, and they married. They returned to Prague in 1921, and there he founded a liberal progressive congregation, Unitarian congregation, which, as Leslie mentioned, after many years, numbered in its thousands. Now, Čapek was delighted to be a Unitarian minister and with this new faith, but he found that he missed some of the ritual elements of his native Catholicism. And so in dialogue with his wife, who also became a Unitarian minister, and his congregation, he developed the flower communion service, which he celebrated for the first time, 1923, on June the 4th. So this is the exact anniversary of that first service. And he wanted a service. He couldn't do a traditional communion service because he and many of his congregation were uncomfortable with the theology of the sacraments of the Catholic communion. But he was a man who greatly appreciated nature, in particular flowers, and so he developed the flower communion service. Now, if you think about flowers, all of these are flowers. And you can't really talk about flowers in general without picturing a flower in particular. But a rose is no more a flower than a zinnia or a lily or a bird of paradise. All of them equally are flowers, though they have great differences in their form, where they grow, their beauty, their color, their size, all kinds of variations. Similarly, if you think of humanity, it's hard to think of humanity in general without picturing individual humans. But all of us have differences in our talents, in our beauty, in what we offer the world, where we thrive, what we do. And as the beauty of these flowers is enhanced by their great variety and diversity, it would be beautiful, of course, if we had nothing but red roses, but how much more beautiful is it that we have all of these different colors, these different sizes, shapes, and styles of flowers, which together enhance the beauty of the world. So it is with us as humans. And Čapek introduced that service in the Prague congregation. It very quickly became a favorite. And in 1940, his wife came to the States on a visit and introduced the service to the Cambridge, Massachusetts congregation. His popularity quickly spread. She was not able to return to Europe because of the outbreak of the Second World War, and did not discover until after the war that her husband had been executed in Dachau concentration camp. This service has now become an international favorite amongst Unitarians and Unitarian Universalists all around the world. It's a way for us to celebrate that together with all of our diversity, we are much richer and more beautiful than we would be alone. It's a way for us to receive the beauty and gifts of others as we ourselves give the beauty and gift of ourselves to them.
In every New England church, there is a vestibule or antechamber that bridges the space between outside of the meeting house and the inside of the sanctuary. In the harsh, snowy winters, this space is an important buffer between the cold, who reminded us of this ritual and reintroduced it to many of our churches in the country in the 1990s. I will admit that while it was not a ceremony of my childhood Unitarian Universalist church, the flower communion is one of my favorite services of the year. I love that each of us brings a flower and joins that flower with those of our fellow worshipers. The bouquet that we create this morning is a flower representation of the beautiful bouquet of people we make together, that we make when we gather. I have had the privilege throughout the last 3 years of sitting up here on the chancel regularly, which means that I can easily look out over the congregation and take in the beautiful bouquet that is you. Each Sunday, I look out and I see our sturdy flowers and our frail flowers, our wallflowers and wilting flowers. I see the flowers that are just blossoming and blooming, and the flowers that need a little extra attention, and the flowers that quietly fill out the bouquet. I love that we make room for all the types of flowers that arrive, the easily to identify ones and the ones we don't quite yet understand are flowers. We search for the beauty. Hey now. We search for the beauty within each flower, bless it for being with us, and hopefully help it grow and thrive for a time. And just as we make space in our vases to ensure that every flower can be included, we make space in our community to ensure that every person can be included. The diversity of the flowers is important too. It reminds us that each of us is beautiful and important in our uniqueness, that we have something special to offer one another. And if I may, since we all have something special to offer one another, if you by chance are an adult over the age of 26, please consider teaching in our children and youth religious education program. To me, the beauty that comes through the diversity of the flowers in our bouquet, our congregation, is what has given me the courage to be who I am and do what I have done. I could not have come out as transgender 22 years ago, could not have thrived in my ministry, and could not have invited you to change with me had it not been for the foundational message of love and appreciation for diversity that our faith offers us. Today, as I take my flower from our bouquet, I will do so with appreciation of all that we have done together these past 3 years, of all the ways we have grown and changed as individuals and as a community. Taking a flower different from the one we bring reminds us of how we are forever changed by being together for a time. I am grateful to you for changing me and giving me the privilege of witnessing your changing. May the bouquet that is this community continue to unfold in beautiful ways.
It is so wonderful to be gathered as one community. It's beautiful. And I invite you into another moment of meditation, which is simply to look around and see all the beauty in this sanctuary. And you thought I was talking about the flowers. So I invite you to look at that too. It's a beautiful display of flowers. And this is what I want to say, which will be very brief because we need to engage with these flowers. The flowers before us, from the very first flower communion that I ever went through, which I experienced, but the hope that they represent will last. For a long time, I had a pressed flower that was, her life had been very difficult and my life was just unfolding, and looking for some common ground, we found a Unitarian fellowship and we began to go together. A few years later, she left the fellowship for a Sangha, and a decade later, I was participating in this ritual with first my beloved daughter and then my infant son. When I think about flower communion, I think not only of this time when the flowers are gathered so pristinely, but I think also of the time after this, when those flowers will be clutched in hands and carried about and left on seats and put in cars. And they will be there. Not quite as beautiful as they are now, but still beautiful. And every year, after the hours that follow my work and after this service, I always take whatever is left of my flower and I put it in water and I look at it, and it is always so beautiful, just as all of you gathered here are beautiful today. Last year, when we talked about this service, we talked about resilience. We talked about resilience at a time we did not know how much that word would mean to us. But today we know. Norbert Čapek, this ritual, at its heart is the spirit of resilience. He knew that people need to be reminded that sunshine and nourishment allows new growth, and that hope will prevail. So I say to you today, the flowers will wilt, the hope will last.